The world of Tantra. The Sutra. Devi asks, O Shiva, what is your reality? What is this wonder-filled universe? What constitutes seed? Who centers the universal wheel? What is this life beyond form, pervading forms? How many we enter it fully above space and time, names and descriptions? Let my doubts be cleared. So here we go with some introductory points. First, the world of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra is not intellectual and is not philosophical. Doctrine is meaningless to it. It is concerned with method, with technique, not with principles at all. The word Tantra means technique, the method, the path. So it's not philosophical, note this. It is not concerned with intellectual problems and inquiries. It is not concerned with the why of things. It is concerned with the how. Not with what is truth, but how the truth can be attained. Tantra means technique. So this treatise is a scientific one. Science is not concerned with why, science is concerned with how. This is the basic difference between philosophy and science. Philosophy asks, how this existence? The moment you ask the question how, method and technique become important. Theories become meaningless, experience becomes the center. Tantra is science. Tantra is not a philosophy. To understand philosophy is easy because only your intellect is required. If you can understand language, if you can understand concept, you can understand philosophy. You need not change. You require no transformation. As you are, you can understand philosophy, but not Tantra. You will need a change, rather a mutation. Unless you're different, Tantra cannot be understood because Tantra is not an intellectual proposition. It is an experience. Unless you're receptive, ready, vulnerable to the experience, it's not going to happen to you. It's not going to come to you. Philosophy is concerned with the mind. Your head is enough. Your totality is not required. Tantra needs you in your totality. It is a deeper challenge. You will have to be in it wholly. It is not fragmentary. A different approach, a different attitude, a different mind to receive it is required. Because of this, Devi is asking apparently philosophical questions. Tantra starts with Devi's questions. All the questions can be tackled philosophically. Really, any question can be tackled in two ways, philosophically or totally, intellectually or existentially. For example, if someone asks, what is love? You can tackle it intellectually. You can discuss, you can propose theories, you can argue for a particular hypothesis. You can create a system, a doctrine, and you may not have known love at all. To create a doctrine, experience is not needed. Really, on the contrary, the less you know, the better, because then you can propose a system unhesitatingly. Only a blind man can easily define what light is. When you do not know, you are bold. Ignorance is always bold. Knowledge hesitates. And the more you know, the more you feel that the ground underneath is dissolving. The more you know, the more you feel how ignorant you are. And those who are really wise, they become ignorant. They become as simple as children or as simple as idiots. The less you know, the better. To be philosophical, to be dogmatic, to be doctrine, this is easy. To tackle a problem intellectually is very easy. But to tackle a problem existentially, not just to think about it, but to live it through, to go through it, to allow yourself to be transformed through it, it is very difficult. That is to know love, one will have to be in love. That is dangerous because you will not remain the same. The experience is going to change you. The moment you enter love, you enter a different person. And when you come out, you will not be able to recognize your old face. It will not belong to you. A discontinuity will have happened. Now there's a gap. The old man is dead and the new man has come. That is what is known as rebirth. Being twice born. Tantra is not philosophical and existential, so of course, Devi asks questions which appear to be philosophical, but Shiva is not going to answer them that way. So it's better to understand it in the beginning, otherwise you will be puzzled, because Shiva is not going to answer a single question. All the questions that Devi is asking, Shiva is not going to answer at all, and still he answers. And really, only he has answered them to no one else, but on a different plane. Devi asks, "What is your reality, my lord?" He's not going to answer it. On the contrary, he will give a technique, and if Devi goes through this technique, she will know. So the answer is a roundabout. It is not direct. He's not going to answer, "Who am I?" He will give a technique. Do it and you will know. For Tantra, doing is knowing, and there is no other knowing. Okay, I'm going to repeat this. For Tantra, doing is knowing, and there is no other knowing. Unless you do something, unless you change, unless you have a different perspective to look at, to look with, unless you move in an altogether different dimension than the intellect, there is no answer. Answers can be given. They are all lies. All philosophies are lies. You ask a question and the philosophy gives you an answer. It satisfies you or it doesn't satisfy you. If it satisfies you, you become a convert to the philosophy, but you remain the same. If it doesn't satisfy you, you go on searching and searching for some other philosophy to be converted to. But you remain the same. You're not attached at all. You're not changed. So whether you're a Hindu or a Mohammed or a Christian or Jaina, it makes no difference. The real person behind the facade of a Hindu or a Mohammedan or a Christian is the same. Only words differ, or clothes. The man who is going to the church or to the temple or to the mosque is the same man, only faces differ. And there are faces which are false, they are masks. Behind the mask you will find the same man, the same anger, the same aggression, the same violence, the same greed, the same lust. Everything is the same. In Mohammedan sexuality different from Hindu sexuality? Is Christian violence different from Hindu violence? It's the same. The reality remains the same, only clothes differ. Tantra is not concerned with your clothes. Tantra is concerned with you. If you ask a question, it shows where you are. It shows also whatever you are and you cannot see. That is why there is the question a blind man asks, "What is light?" And philosophy will start answering what is light. Tantra will know only this. If a man is asking what is light, it shows only that he is blind. Tantra will start operating on the man, changing the man so that he can see. Tantra will not say what is light. Tantra will tell how to attain insight, how to attain seeing, how to attain vision. When the vision is there, the answer will be there. Tantra will not give you the answer. Tantra will give you the technique to attain the answer. I'm going to repeat this. Tantra will not give you the answer. Tantra will give you the technique to attain the answer. Now, this answer is not going to be intellectual. If you say something about light to a blind man, this is intellectual. If the blind man himself becomes capable of seeing, this is existential. This is what I mean when I say that Tantra is existential. So Shiva is not going to answer Devi's question. Still, he will answer the first thing. The second thing, this is a different type of language. You must know something about it before we enter it. All the Tantra treatises and dialogues are dialogues between Shiva and Devi. Devi questions and Shiva answers. All the Tantra treatises start that way. Why this method? It is very significant. It is not a dialogue between a teacher and a disciple. It is a dialogue between two lovers. And Tantra signifies through it a very meaningful thing, that the deeper teachings cannot be given unless there is love between the two, the disciple and the master. The disciple and the master must become deep lovers. Only then can the higher, the beyond, be expressed. So it is a language of love. The disciple must be in an attitude of love, but not only this, because friends can be lovers. Tantra says a disciple moves as receptivity, so the disciple must be in a feminine receptivity. Only then is something possible. You need not to be a woman to be a disciple, but you need to be in a feminine attitude or receptivity. When Devi asks, it means the feminine attitude asks. Why this emphasis on the feminine attitude? Okay, let's see this. Men and women are not only physically different, they're psychologically different as well. Sex is not only a difference in the body, it is a difference in psychologies also. A feminine mind means receptivity, total receptivity, surrender, love. A disciple needs a feminine psychology, otherwise he will not be able to learn. You can ask, but if you're not open, then you cannot be answered. You can ask a question and still remain closed, then the answer cannot penetrate you. Your doors are closed, you're dead, you're not open. A feminine receptivity means a womb-like receptivity in the inner depth, so that you can receive. And not only that, much more is implied. A woman is not only receiving something, the moment that she receives it, it becomes a part of her body. A child is received, a woman conceives. The moment there is conception, the child has become part of that feminine body. It's not alien, it's not foreign, it has been absorbed. Now the child will live not as something added to the mother, but just as a part of it, just as the mother. And the child is not only received, the feminine body becomes creative, the child begins to grow. A disciple needs a womb-like receptivity. Whatsoever is received is not be gathered as dead knowledge. It must grow in you. It must become blood and bones in you. It must become a part of you. Now it must grow. This growth will change you, will transform the receiver. That is why Tantra uses the device. Every treatise starts with Devi asking a question and Shiva replying to its Devi and Shiva's concert, his feminine part. So one thing more. Now modern psychology, depth psychology particularly, says that the man is both man and woman. No one is just male, no one is just female, everyone is bisexual, both sexes are there. This is a very recent research in the West, but for Tantra, this has been one of the most basic concepts for thousands of years. You must have seen some pictures of Shiva as Ardhanarishwar, half man, half woman. There is no other concept like this. In the whole history of man, Shiva is duplicated as half man, half woman. So Devi is not just a consort, she's Shiva's other half. And unless a disciple becomes the other half of the master, it is impossible to convey the higher teachings, the esoteric methods. When you become one, there is no doubt. When you are one with the master, totally one, so deeply one, there is no argument, no logic, no reason. One simply absorbs, one becomes a womb. And then the teaching begins to grow in you and change you. That is why Tantra is written in love language. Something must also be understood about love language. There are two types of language, logical language and love language. There are basic differences between these two. Logical language is aggressive. It can be aggressive. It can be argumentative, violent. If I use logical language, I become aggressive upon your mind. I try to convince you, to convert you, to make a puppet of you. My argument is right and you are wrong. Logical language is egocentric. I am right and you are wrong, so I must prove that I am right and you are wrong. I'm not concerned with you. I am concerned with my ego. My ego is always right. Love language is totally different. I'm not concerned with my ego. I'm concerned with you. I'm not concerned to prove something, to strengthen my ego. I'm just concerned to help you. It is a compassion to help you to grow, to help you to transform, to help you to be reborn. Secondly, logic will always be intellectual. Concepts and principles will be significant. Arguments will be significant. With love language, what is said is not significant. Rather, it is the way it is said. The container, the word is not important. The content, the message is more important. It is a heart-to-heart talk, not a mind-to-mind discussion. It is not a debate. It is a communion. So this is rare. Devi is sitting in the lap of Shiva and asking, and Shiva answers. It is a love dialogue, no conflict, as if Shiva is speaking to himself. Why this emphasis on love language? Because if you're in love with your master, then the whole gestalt changes. It becomes different. Then you're not hearing his words. Then you are drinking him. Then words are irrelevant. Really, the silence between the words becomes more significant. What he is saying may be meaningful, or it may not be meaningful. But it is his eyes, his gestures, his compassion, his love. That is why Tantra has a fixed device, a structure. Every treatise starts with Devi asking and Shiva answering. No argument is going to be there. No wastage of words. There are very simple statements of fact, telegraphic messages with no view to convince, but just to relate. If you encounter Shiva with a question with a closed mind, he will not answer you in this way. First, your closeness has to be broken. Then he will have to be aggressive. Then your prejudices, then your preconceptions have to be destroyed. Unless you're cleared completely of your past, nothing can be given to you. But this is not so with his consort Devi. With Devi, there is no past. Remember, when you're deeply in love with your mind ceases to be. There is no past, only the present moment becomes everything. When you are in love, the present is the only time. The now is all, no past, no future. So Devi is just open. There is no defense, nothing to be cleared, nothing to be destroyed. The ground is ready. Only a seed has to be dropped. The ground is not only ready, but welcoming, receptive, asking to be impregnant. So these sayings that we are going to discuss will be telegraphic. They're just sutras, but each sutra, each telegraphic message given by Shiva is worth a Veda, is worth a Bible, worth a Quran. Which single sentence can become the base of a great scripture? Scriptures are logical. You have to propose, defend, argue. Here there is no argument, just simple statements of love. Thirdly, the very words Vigyan, Bhairav, Tantra mean the technique of doing beyond consciousness. Vigyan means consciousness, Bhairav means the state which is beyond consciousness, and Tantra means the method. The method of going beyond consciousness. This is the supreme doctrine without any doctrine. We are unconscious, so the religious teachings are concentrated with how to go beyond unconsciousness, how to be conscious. For example, Krishnamurti, Zen, they're both concerned with how to create more consciousness because we are unconscious. So how to be more aware, alert, from unconsciousness, how to move toward consciousness. But Tantra says that this is a duality, unconscious and conscious. If you move from unconsciousness to consciousness, you're moving from one duality to another. Move beyond both. Unless you move beyond both, you can never reach the ultimate. So be neither the unconscious nor the conscious. Just go beyond, just be. Be neither the conscious nor the unconscious. Just be. This is going beyond yoga. Going beyond Zen, going beyond all teachings. Vigyan means consciousness, and Bhairav is a specific term, a Tantra term, for one who has become super conscious and has gone beyond. That is why Shiva is known as Bhairava and Devi is known as Bhairavi, those who have gone beyond the dualities. In our experience, only love can give a glimpse. This is why love becomes the very basic device to impact tantric wisdom. In our experience, we can say that only love is something which goes beyond duality. When two persons are in love, the deeper they move into, the less and less they are two, the more and more they become one. And a point comes and a peak is reached when only apparently they are two. Inwardly, they're one. The duality is transcended. Only in this sense does Jesus saying that God is love become meaningful, otherwise not. In our experience, love is nearest to God lines. It is not that God is loving, as Christians go on interpreting, that God has a fatherly love for you. Nonsense. God is love is a tantric statement. It means love is the only reality in our experience which reaches us nearest to God, to the divine. Why? Why is that? Because in love, oneness is felt. Bodies remain two, but something beyond the bodies merges and becomes one. That is why there's so much hankering after sex. The real hankering is after oneness, but the oneness is not sexual. In sex, both bodies have only a deceptive feeling of becoming one, but they're not one. They're only joined together. But for a single moment, two bodies forget themselves in each other, and a certain physical oneness is felt. This hankering is not bad, but to stop at it is dangerous. This is a hankering that shows a deeper urge to feel oneness. In love, on a higher plane, the inner one merges into the other, and there is a feeling of oneness. Duality dissolves. Only in this non-dual love can we have a glimpse of what is the state of Bharava. We may say that the state of Bharava is absolute love with no coming back. From the peak of love, there is no falling back. It is remaining on that peak. We have made Shiva as a bod on Kailash. That is simply symbolic. It is the highest peak, the holiest peak. We have made it Shiva as a bod. We can go there, but we will have to come down. It cannot be our abode. We can go on a pilgrimage. It is Tirthayatra, a pilgrimage, a journey. We can touch for a single moment the highest peak. Then we will have to come back. In love, this holy pilgrimage happens, but not for all, because almost no one moves beyond sex. So we go on living in the valley, the dark valley. Sometimes someone moves to the peak of love, but then he falls back because it is so dizzying. It is so high that you're so low, and it's so difficult to live there. Those who have loved, they know how difficult it is to be constantly in love. One has to come back again and again. It is Shiva's abode. He lives there. It is his home. A Bharava lives in love. That is his abode. When I say that this is his abode, I mean now he's not even aware of love. Because if you live on Kailash, you will not be aware that this is Kailash. This is a peak. The peak becomes a plane. Shiva is not aware of love. We are aware of love because we live in a non-love state. And because of the contrast, we feel love. Shiva is love. The state of Bharava means that one has become love, not loving. One has become love. One lives on the peak. The peak has become his abode. How to make this highest peak possible beyond duality, beyond unconsciousness, beyond consciousness, beyond the body and beyond the soul, beyond the world and beyond the so-called moksha, liberation? How to reach this peak? The technique is Tantra, but Tantra is pure technique, so it is going to be difficult to understand. First, let us understand the questions what Devi is asking. Oh Shiva, what is your reality? Why this question? You can also ask this question, but it will not carry the same meaning. So try to understand why Devi is asking. What is your reality? Devi is in deep love. When you are in deep love, for the first time you encounter the inner reality. Then Shiva is not the form, then Shiva is not the body. When you are in love, of the beloved falls away, disappears. The form is no more, and the formless is revealed. You're facing an abyss. That is why we're so afraid of love. We can face a body, we can face a face, we can face a form, but we are afraid on facing an abyss. If you love someone, if you really love, his body is bound to disappear. In some moments of climax, of peaks, the form will dissolve, and through the beloved you will enter the formless. That is why we are afraid. It is falling into a bottomless abyss. So this question is not just a simple curiosity. Oh Shiva, what is your reality? Devi must have fallen in love with the form. Things start the way. She must have loved this man as a man, and now when the love has come of an age, when the love has flowered, this man has disappeared. He has become formless. Now he is to be found nowhere. Oh Shiva, what is your reality? It is a question asked in a very intense love moment. And when questions are raised, they become different according to the mind in which they are asked. So create the situation. the milieu of the question in your mind. Devine must be at a loss. Shiva has disappeared. When love reaches its peak, the lover disappears. Why does this happen? This happens because really everyone is formless. You are not a body. You move as a body, you live as a body, but you're not a body. When we see someone from the outside, he is a body. Love penetrates within. Then we are not seeing the person from the outside. Love can see a person as a person can see himself from within. Then the form disappears. A Zen monk, Rinzai, attended his enlightenment, and the first thing he asked was, "Where is my body? Where has my body gone?" And he began to search. He called his disciples and said, "Go and find out where my body is. I have lost my body." He had entered the formless. You are also a formless existence, but you know yourself not directly, but from others' eyes. You know through mirror. Sometime while looking in the mirror, close your eyes and then think, meditate. If there was no mirror, how could you have known your face? If there was no mirror, there would have been no face. If you do not have a face, mirrors gives you faces. Think of a world where there are no mirrors. You are alone, no mirror at all. Not even others' eyes working as mirrors. You are alone on a lonely island. Nothing can mirror you. Then will you have any face? Or will you have any body? You cannot have one. You do not have one at all. We know ourselves only through others, and the others can only know the outer form. That is why we become identified with it. Another Zen mystic, Huai Hai, used to say to his disciples, "When you have lost your head meditating, come immediately to me." When you lose your head, come immediately to me. When you begin to feel that there is no head, do not be afraid, come immediately to me. This is the right moment. Now something can be taught to you with a head. No teaching is possible. The head always comes in between. Devi asks Shiva, "Oh Shiva, what is your reality? Who are you?" The form has disappeared, hence the question. In love you enter the other as himself. It is not you answering, you become one, and for the first time you know an abyss, a formless presence. That is why for centuries and centuries they were not making any sculptures, any pictures of Shiva. They were only making Shiva Linga, the symbol. The Shiva Linga is just a formless form. When you love someone, when you enter someone, he becomes just a luminous presence. The Shiva Linga is just a luminous presence, just an aura of light. That is why Devi asks, what is your reality? What is the wonder-filled universe? We know the universe, but we'll never know it is as a wonder-filled. Children know, lovers know, sometimes poets and madmen know. We do not know that the word is wondering-filled. Everything is just repetitive. No wonder, no property, just flat prose. It doesn't create a song in you. It doesn't create a dance in you. It doesn't give birth to the poetry inside. The whole universe looks mechanical. Children look at it with a wonder-filled eyes. When the eyes are wonder-filled, the universe is wonder-filled. When you are in love, you again become like children, Jesus says. Only those who are like children will enter my kingdom of God. Why? Because if the universe is not a wonder, you cannot be religious. The universe can be explained. Then your approach is scientific. The universe is either known or unknown. But that which is unknown can be known any day. It is not unknowable. The universe becomes unknowable, a mystery, only when your eyes are wonder-filled. Devi says, what is this wonder-filled universe? Suddenly there is a jump from a personal question to a very impersonal one. She was asking, what is your reality? And then suddenly, what is this wonder-filled universe? When form disappears, your beloved becomes the universe, the formless, the infinite. Suddenly, Devi becomes aware that she's not asking a question about Shiva. She's asking a question about the whole universe. Now Shiva has become the whole universe. Now all the stars are moving in him, and the whole firmament and the whole space is surrounded by him. Now he's the great engulfing factor, the great encompassing. Karl Jaspers has defined God as the great encompassing. When you enter into love, into a deep, intimate world of love, the person disappears, the form disappears, and the lover becomes just a door to the universe. Your curiosity can be a scientific one. Then you have to approach through logic. Then you must not think of the formless. Then be aware of the formless. Then remain content with the form. Science is always concerned with the form. If anything formless is proposed to a scientific mind, he will cut it into form. Unless it takes a form, it is meaningless. First give it a form, a definite form. Only then does the inquiry start. In love, if there is a form, then there is no end to it. Dissolve the form. When things become formless, dizzy, without boundaries, everything entering another, the whole universe becoming a oneness, then only is it a wonder-filled universe. What constitutes seed? Then Devi goes on. From the universe she goes on to ask, what constitutes seed? This formless, wonder-filled universe, from where does it come? From where does it originate? Or does it not originate? What is the seed? Who centers the universal wheel? Asks Devi. This wheel goes on moving and moving, this great change, this constant flux. But who centers this wheel? Where is the axis, the center, the unmoving center? She doesn't stop for any answer. She goes on asking as if she's not asking anyone, as if talking to herself. What is this life beyond from pervading forms? How may we enter it fully above space and time, names and description? Let my doubts be cleared. The emphasis is not on questions, but on doubts. Let my doubts be cleared. This is very significant. If you're asking an intellectual question, you're asking for a definite answer so that your problem is solved. But Devi says, let my doubts be cleared. She's not really asking about answers. She's asking for a transformation of her mind, because a doubting mind will remain a doubting mind whatsoever answers are given. Note it. A doubting mind will remain a doubting mind. Answers are irrelevant. If I give you one answer and you have doubting mind, you will doubt it again and again and again. If I give you another answer, you will doubt it that also. You have a doubting mind. A doubting mind means you will put a question mark to anything. So answers are useless. You ask me who created the world, and I tell you A created the world. Then you are bound to ask who created A. So the real problem is not how to answer questions. The real problem is how to change the doubting mind. How to create a mind which is not doubting or which is trustful. So Devi says, let my doubts be cleared. 2 or 3 things more. When you ask a question, you may be asking for many reasons. One may be just this, that you want a confirmation. You already know the answer, you have the answer, you just want it to be confirmed that your answer is right. Then your question is false, pseudo. It is not a question. You may be asking a question not because you're ready to change yourself, but just as a curiosity. The mind goes on questioning. In the mind, questions come as leaves come on a tree. That is very mature of the mind to question. So it goes on questioning. It matters not what you're questioning. With anything given to the mind, it will create a question. It is a machine to grind out, to create questions. So give it anything and it will cut it into pieces and create many, many, many questions. One question, answer it, and the mind will create many questions from the answer. This has been the whole history of philosophy. Bertrand Russell remembers that when he was a child, he thought that one day, when he's mature enough to understand all philosophy, all questions will be answered. Then later, when he was 80, he said, now I can say that my own questions are there standing as they were standing when I was a child. No other questions have come up because of these theories of philosophy. So he said, when I was young, I used to say philosophy is an inquiry for ultimate answers. Now I cannot say it. It is an inquiry for endless questions. So one question creates an answer in many questions. The doubting mind is a problem. Devi says, do not be concerned with my questions. I have asked so many things. What is your reality? Where is a wonder-filled universe? What constitutes seed? Who centers the universal wheel? What is life beyond form? How can we enter it fully above time and space? But do not be concerned with my questions. Let my doubts be cleared. I ask these questions because they are in my mind. I ask them just to show you in my mind. But do not pay much attention to them. Really, answers will not fulfill my need. My need is let my doubts be cleared. But how can the doubts be cleared? Will any answer do? Is there any answer which will clear your doubts? Mind is the doubt. It is not that the mind doubts. Mind is the doubt itself. Unless the mind dissolves, doubts cannot be cleared. Shiva will answer. His answers are teachings, the oldest, most ancient techniques, but you can call the latest also because nothing can be added to them. They are complete, 112 techniques. They have taken in all the possibilities, all the ways of clearing the mind, transcending the mind. Not a single method could be added to Shiva's 112 methods. Vijnana Bhairav Tantra is 5,000 years old. Nothing can be added. There is no possibility to add anything. It is exhausted, complete. It is the most ancient and yet the latest, yet the newest. Old like old heels, the methods seem eternal. And they're new like a dewdrop before the sun because they're so fresh. These 112 methods of meditation constitute the whole science of transforming mind. We will enter them one by one. We will try to comprehend first intellectually, but use your intellect only as an instrument, not as a master. Use it as an instrument to understand some things, but do not go on creating barriers with it. When we will be talking about these techniques, just put aside your past knowledge, your knowing, whatsoever information you have collected. Put them aside. They're just there gathered on the road. Encounter those methods with a fresh mind, with alertness, of course, but not with argumentation. And do not create the fallacy that an argumentative mind is an alert mind. It is not, because the moment you move into arguments, you've lost the awareness, you've lost the alertness. Then you're not here. You lost love. These methods do not belong to any religion. Remember, they are not Hindu, just as the theory of relativity is not Jewish just because Einstein conceived it. And radio and television are not Christian. No one says why you're using electricity. This is a Christian because a Christian mind conceived it. Science does not belong to races and religions. Always remember that. And Tantra is a science. So remember, this is not Hindu at all. These techniques were conceived by Hindus, but these techniques are not Hindu. That is why these techniques will not mention any religious rituals. No temple is needed. You are quite enough of a temple yourself. You are the lab. Always remember that. You are the lab. The whole experiment is to go on within you. No belief is needed. This is not a religion. This is science. No belief is needed. It is not required to believe in the Quran or the Vedas or in Buddha or in Christ or in Mahavira. No belief is needed. Only a daringness to experiment is enough. Courage to experiment is enough. That is the beauty. A Mohammedan can practice and he will reach to the deeper meanings of the Quran. A Hindu can practice and he will, for the first time, know what the Vedas really are. And a Jaina can practice and a Buddhist can practice. They need not to live the religion. Tantra will fulfill them wherever they are. Tantra will be helpful whatsoever the chosen path is. So remember this. Tantra is pure science. You may be a Hindu, a Mohammedan, a Parsi or whatsoever. Tantra doesn't touch your religion at all. Tantra says that religion is a social affair, so belong to any religion you want. It is irrelevant. But you can transform yourself, and that transformation needs a scientific methodology. When you are ill, when you have fallen ill, or you have caught tuberculosis, for instance, or anything, then whatever you are a Hindu or a Mohammedan makes no difference. The tuberculosis remains indifferent to your Hinduism, to your Mohammedanism, to your beliefs, political, social, or religious. Tuberculosis has to be treated scientifically. There is no Hindu tuberculosis, no Mohammedan tuberculosis. There is just tuberculosis. You are ignorant. You are in conflict. You're asleep. This is a disease, a spiritual disease. This disease has to be treated by the Tantra. You are irrelevant. Your beliefs are irrelevant. It is just a coincidence that you were born somewhere and somewhere else is born somewhere else. This is just a coincidence. Your religion is a coincidence, so do not cling to it. Use some scientific methods to transform yourself. Tantra is not very well known. And even if it is known, it's not very much understood. So it's generally most of the times misunderstood. There are reasons for it. The higher and purer science, the less is the possibility that the masses will know of it. We will have only heard the name of the theory of relativity. It used to be said that only 12% understood it when Einstein was alive. All over the world, only 12 minds could understand it. It was difficult even for Albert Einstein to make it understood to someone, to make it understandable, to convey it, because it moves so high. It goes above your head, but it can be understood. A technical mathematical knowledge is needed. A training is needed, and then it can be understood. But Tantra is more difficult because no training will help. Only transformation can help. That is why Tantra could never become understood by the masses. And it always happens that when you cannot understand a thing, at least you will misunderstand it, because then you feel, okay, I understand. You can simply remain in the vacuum. Secondly, when you cannot understand a thing, you begin to abuse it because it insults you. You cannot understand it. You cannot understand it? This is impossible. Something must be wrong with the thing itself. One begins to abuse, one begins to talk nonsense, and then he feels now it is okay. So Tantra was not understood. Tantra was misunderstood. It was so deep and so high that this was natural. Secondly, because Tantra moves beyond duality, and a very standpoint is amoral. Please understand this word. Moral, immoral, amoral. We understand morality, we understand immorality, but it becomes difficult if something is amoral, beyond both morality and beyond both immorality. Tantra is amoral. Look at it in this way. A medicine is amoral. It is neither moral nor immoral. If you give it to a thief, it will help. If you give it to a saint, it will help. It will make no differentiation between a thief and a saint. The medicine cannot say this is a thief, so I'm going to kill him, and this is a saint, so I'm going to help him. A medicine is a scientific thing. Your being a thief or being a saint is irrelevant. Tantra is amoral. Tantra says no morality is needed. No particular morality is needed. On the contrary, you're immoral because you have a very disturbed mind. So Tantra cannot make a precondition that first you become moral and then you can practice Tantra. Tantra says this is absurd. Someone is ill, feverish, and the doctor comes and says, first bring down your fever, must be quite healthy, only then I can give you the medicine. This is what is happening. One thief comes to a saint and he says, I'm a thief. Tell me how to meditate. The saint says, first leave your profession. How can you meditate if you remain a thief? One alcoholic comes and says, I'm an alcoholic. How can I meditate? The saint says, the first condition is leave alcohol, only then you can meditate. The conditions become suicidal, guys. The man is an alcoholic or a thief or immoral because he has a disturbed mind, an ill mind. There are the effects, the consequences of the diseased mind, and he's told, first be well and then you can meditate. But then who needs meditation? Meditation is medicinal. It is a medicine. Tantra is amoral. It does not ask from you to stop something in order to practice it. It doesn't ask you who you are. Your being a man is enough. Wherever you are, whatsoever you are accepted. Choose a technique which fits you. Put your total energy into it, and you will not be the same again. Real authentic techniques always be like that. If I make preconditions, it shows I have a pseudo technique. I say, first do this, and first do that, and first do not do that, and then. And those are impossible conditions, because a thief can change his objects, but he cannot become a non-thief. A greedy man can change the objects on his greed, but he cannot become non-greedy. You can force him, or he can force upon himself non-greed, but it is also only because of a certain greed. If heaven is promised, he may even try to be non-greedy, but this is a Greek par excellence. Heaven, moksha, liberation, satchitananda, exist, consciousness, bliss. They will be the objects of his greed. Tantra says, you cannot change man unless you give him authentic techniques, which with he can change. Just by preaching, nothing is changed, and you can see this all over the world. Whatsoever Tantra says is written all over the world. So much preaching, so much moralizing, so many priests, preachers. The whole world is filled with them, yet everything is so ugly and is so immoral. Why is this happening? The same will be the case if you give your hospitals to preachers. They will go there and they will start preaching. And then they will make every ill man feel you are guilty. You have created this disease. Now change this disease. If preachers are given hospitals, what will be the condition of hospitals? The same as the condition of the whole wide world. Preachers go on preaching. They go on telling people, don't be angry, without giving any technique. And we have heard these teaching for so long that we never even raise the question, what are you saying? I'm angry, and you're simply saying don't be angry? How is this possible? When I'm angry, it means I am anger. And you just tell me, don't be angry, so I can only suppress myself. But what will create more anger? That will create guilt, because if I try to change and cannot change myself, that creates inferiority. It gives me a feel of guilt, and I'm incapable. I cannot win over my anger. No one can win. You need certain weapons. You need certain techniques, because your anger is just an indication of a disturbed mind. Change the disturbed mind, and the indication will change. Anger is just showing what is within. Change the within, and the without will change. So Tantra is not concerned with your so-called morality. Really, to emphasize morality, it means degrading. It is inhuman. If someone comes to me and say, leave anger first, leave sex first, leave this and that, then I'm inhuman. What I'm saying is impossible. And that impossibility will make that man feel inwardly mean. He will begin to feel inferior. He will be degraded inside his own eyes. If he tries the impossible, he's going to be a failure. And when he's a failure, he will be convinced that he is a sinner. The preachers have convinced the whole world that you are sinners. This is good for them, because unless you are convinced, their profession can continue. You must be sinners. Only then can churches, temples, and mosques continue to prosper. Your beginning in sin is their success. Your guilt is the base of all the highest churches. The more guilty you are, the more churches will go on rising higher and higher and higher. They are built on your guilt, on your sin, on your inferiority complex. Thus, they have created an inferior humanity. So Tantra is not concerned with your so-called morality, your social formalities, blah, blah. That doesn't mean anything to Tantra. That doesn't mean that Tantra says to be immoral as well. Tantra is so much unconcerned with your morality that Tantra cannot say to be immoral. Tantra gives you scientific techniques for changing the mind, and once the mind is different, your character will be different. Once the basis of your structure changes, your whole edifice will be different. because of this immoral attitude, Tantra could not be tolerated by your so-called saints. They all went against it, because if Tantra succeeds, then all this nonsense which goes on the name of religion will have to stop. See this. Christianity fought very much against scientific progress. Why? Only because if scientific progress is there, the material world, then the time is not very far of when in the psychological and the spiritual world also science will penetrate. So Christianity started fighting scientific progress, because once you know that you can change matter through your technique, the time is not very far of when you will come to know that you can change your mind through techniques, because the mind is nothing but subtle matter. This is scary for the church. This is Tantra's proposition, that mind is nothing but subtle matter. It can be changed. And once you have a different mind, you have a different world, because you look through the mind. The world you're seeing because of a particular mind. Change the mind and then you will look, there's a different world. And if there's no mind, that is the ultimate for Tantra, to bring about a state where there's no mind. Then look at the world without a mediator. When the mediator is not, you are encountering the real, because no one is between you and the real. Then nothing can be distorted. So Tantra says that when there is no mind, that is the state of Bharava, a non-mind state. For the first time you look at the world, at which is just as it is. If you have a mind, you go on creating a world, you go on imposing, projecting. So first change the mind, then change from mind to no mind. And these 112 methods can help each other and everyone. Any particular method may not be of use to you. That is why Shiva goes on relating many methods. Choose any one method which suits you. It is not difficult to know which suits you. We will try to understand each method and how to choose yourself in one method which can change you and your mind. This understanding, this intellectual understanding will be a basic necessity, but this is not the end whatsoever. We will talk about here, try it. Really, when you try the right method, it clicks immediately. So we'll go on talking about methods here every day. You try them, just play with them. Go home and play with them, the right method. Whenever you've happened upon it, just clicks, you will feel it. Something explodes in you, and you know that this is the right method for me. But effort is needed, and you may be surprised that suddenly one day one method has gripped you. So while we're talking here parallel to it, go on playing with these methods. I say playing because you should not be serious with them. Just play. Something may fit you. If it fits you, then be serious and then go deep into it intensively, honestly, with all your energy, with all your mind. But before, just play with them. I found that while you're playing, your mind is more open. While you're serious, your mind is not open. It is closed, so just play. Do not be too serious, just play. And these methods are simple. You can just play with them. Take one method and play with it for at least 3 days. If it gives you a certain feeling of affinity, if it gives you a certain feeling of well-being, and it gives you a certain feeling that this is just right for you, then be serious with it. Be serious about it. But till then, play with it. Then forget the others. Do not play with any other methods. Stick to it for at least 3 months. Miracles are possible. Repeat that within your brain. Miracles are possible. The only thing is that the technique must be for you. If the technique is not for you, then nothing happens. Then you may go on with it for lives together, but nothing will happen. If the method is for you, then even 3 minutes are enough. So these 112 methods can be a miraculous experience for you, or they may just be listening. It depends on you. We will go on describing each method from as many angles as possible. If you feel any affinity with it, play with it. Affinity is the compass. If you feel any affinity within it, play with it for 3 days. If you feel that it fits, then something clicks in you, continue it for 3 months. Life is a miracle. Repeat that within your mind's brain. Life is a miracle. If you have not known its mystery, that only shows that you do not know the technique for how to approach it. As Shiva proposes 112 methods, these are all the methods possible. If nothing clicks and nothing gives you the feeling that this is for you, then there is no method left for you. Remember this. Then forget spirituality and just be happy. Then it is not for you. But these 112 methods are for the whole of humanity, for all the ages that have passed, and for all the ages that have yet to come. In no time has there ever been a single man, and there will never be one who can say, these 112 methods are all useless for me. Impossible, this is just impossible. Every type of mind has taken into account, every possible type of mind has been taking a technique in Tantra. There are many techniques for which no man exists yet. They are for the future. There are many techniques for which no man exists now. They are for the past. But do not be afraid. There are many methods which are for you. So we will start this journey from tomorrow. My name is Vivian Caravanu. Thank you for listening and being present, taking in all this beautiful wisdom and information about Tantra. Hope you're going to continue practicing within our meditation lab, which we will have the opportunity to work on these beautiful 112 practices, 112 meditations that will help us heal our disturbed mind, that will help us achieve what we want in life by discovering the mystery of life. Stay tuned.